Now, South Korea's general election for the 300 seats at the National Assembly kicked off earlier this morning. Amid the COVID-19 outbreak, election authorities have installed mandatory quarantine measures at polling stations to prevent further infections. For more on this, we're going to go live to our Kan Hyeong-woo standing by at one of the polling stations in central Seoul. So, Hyung-woo, just give us a picture of what it's like at the station that you're in.
Hi, Sam. South Korean voters began casting their ballots at 6 a.m. this morning. Some of them were even lining up before the polling stations opened. Now, the coronavirus outbreak still lingering in the country, the National Election Commission has prepared a number of preventive measures against the possible spread of COVID-19. Along with bringing an identification card, voters must wear a mask when going to a polling station. Once voters arrive, they get their temperatures taken. If they don't have a fever or a cough, they need to disinfect their hands with hand sanitizer and put on disposable plastic gloves, both of which are provided by the election officials. Now this year, a fingerprint scanner won't be used due to concerns it could spread the virus. Instead, voters will sign their digital signatures. Voters are also required to stand at least 1 meter apart from each other at all times. Anyone showing respiratory symptoms or a temperature higher than 37.5 degrees Celsius will be escorted to a separate area to vote. The polling stations will stay open until 6 p.m.
So now, Hyung-woo, what about those in self-quarantine? The National Election Commission has previously made it possible for them to also cast their ballots. Tell us how it works.
That's right, Sam. The election authorities have allowed those in self-quarantine to cast their ballots. There are almost 60,000 people eligible to vote in self-quarantine. According to Ministry of the Interior and Safety, around 23%, that's about of the voters in self-quarantine, some 13,000 people have applied to cast their ballots on Wednesday. Now here are the rules for the voters under self-quarantine. The quarantine will be temporarily lifted from 5:20 p.m. to 7 p.m. Only then can those in self-quarantine head straight to polling stations on foot or in their own cars. Their voting period is from 6 to 7 p.m. after the other voters are finished. Most of those under quarantine will be accompanied by government officials, but those who aren't will be tracked through a mobile application at all times. And of course, they must wear masks. Given that the self-quarantine voters will cast their ballots after 6 p.m., the exit poll will be released at 6:15 p.m. That's all I have for now. Back to you, Samin.